Hello, I'm Tara Brabazon, and I'm the Dean of Graduate Studies at Charles Darwin University. And yes, welcome to Outrider 25, the mid-candidature review. Yes, we are in the middle point of our backward mapping series. And yes, we've got all our regular friends. Hector is joining us once more. Good morning, Hector. We also, of course, have son of Hector, introduced last week. And we have a new friend. These are all my sort of private little friends. We now have, of course, Helga, or I call her Disco Helga. Now, it is quite important that we have a bit of a feminine infusion this week because I described the mid-candidature review as the Jan milestone. Those of you that know the Brady Bunch know exactly where I'm going here. So we had the beautiful eldest daughter, Masha, and we had the cute little one, Cindy, and then there was sort of Jan in the middle, eh? Yeah. So this mid-candidature review is the Jan milestone. It's liminal, it's a bit uncomfortable, you're not sure really what's going on because you've done a lot of work. You've done a chunk of work, and that is absolutely brilliant. And in many ways, you've reached the point of no return. There is stuff that you can't alter, that you can't change now. But what adds the stress and the complexity is you've still got a really, really long way to go. And you can see, there's a lot of work to do, and you can get lost in the work that is left to be done. So this milestone is frequently chaotic, and it's frequently an absolute mess. And be really cool with that. That's fine. This mess in the middle is normal. This is the unsettling milestone. And you need to be sort of cool with it because there is incredible productivity to emerge from this mess. So what I'm asking us all to do this week and in the mid-thesis review, the mid-candidature review, is to sit in the discomfort. Welcome the discomfort, because what's going to happen is this discomfort is going to provide the fuel for your completion. Yeah. The commentary and the assessment that you are going to receive on this milestone is going to allow you to finish and allow you to finish quickly. The mid-candidature review happens, yes, you've guessed it, about in the middle of the candidature. So between about 18 months and 24 months in the Australian, Aotearoa, New Zealand and British system. But for our colleagues around the world, about the middle point of your thesis moment. Okay, so once more, where you select to position this milestone is incredibly important. So bottom line, if you finished your data collection, if you've done your data collection, you know what, bang, go early. You've done your data collection, go to the mid-candidature review. Brilliant. But if you're also struggling, so you're in this sort of 18-month, 19-month, 20-month, and you don't know what's going on, you're frightened, you're confused, you're worried, you know what? Go to your milestone. Also, if you're seeing a series of cascading problems, you're seeing something weird, something disturbing that may be happening ontologically or methodologically, then you know what? Go into the mid-candidature review and get that crucial, timely feedback. Don't sit and suffer, go to the milestone. This milestone is crucial. So as I said, I'll keep repeating this. Do not be worried about the messiness. It is a corrective. This is the corrective milestone. You've wandered off somewhere randomly, and what this milestone does is it brings you back. Come on. It brings you back to the pathway. And this is the pathway to completion. This is crucial. So what's happening in the mid-candidature, and I'm sure this is you, this is all of us, information is everywhere, like it seems sort of out of control. There's too much stuff. Your field work doesn't appear to be taking shape. Weird stuff's happened in the field work. Ethnography's not happening too well. And speaking of methodology, you're confusing method and theory. That's all getting a bit weird at this point. And you've lost the original contribution to knowledge. What happens at this point is you get it, you go, this is my original contribution to knowledge. And you hold on to it. I got it. And then you lose it. You go, nah. And then you get it again. That's very common. That's what's happening. You think, I've lost it. I don't have a thesis here. And then you remember and you get it. Okay. And also the problem is you're tired. and you're frightened, you're a bit depressed, and you're certainly worried. All of this happens at this midpoint. And can I say, if you're feeling that, that's exactly where you need to be. That's about right. You're not unusual. You're not doing anything bonkers or weird. The mid-candidature, you are feeling unsettled. It is uncomfortable. So the document that you present to this particular milestone activates one maxim: put the problem into the work. What have you done? What's gone wrong? Express in intricate, granular detail the challenges and the issues that have emerged. But remember, the point of all milestones, the reason we're here, is for one reason, and that is backward mapping. So I need you in this difficult middle to focus on your end point. Focus on the completion. And here we go. You need to list everything you need to do from this midpoint to get yourself to that completion. So yes, list all the tasks to complete. That's great. But then put a timeline against them. Amalgamate task and time orientation. So this is the crucial moment in backward mapping, and your supervisors and your assessors are going to really help you work out what's going on here. They're going to make sure, how is your task and time orientation working? Is it in phase? Is it okay? How are you going? And is everything that you planned to put in your thesis actually going to be in your thesis? So at this point, can I say, just in terms of my own thesis, I dropped 2 chapters at this point. I'd written them. I'd written 2 chapters, but they became outtakes and later became articles. But I went, you know what? I don't need those 2 chapters. They're not required at this point. So this is where you're assessing is, what is part of the thesis, what is outside of the thesis, and you cut the legs off the thesis if you can. The point about backward mapping, colleagues, is the closer that you get to your end point, the clearer your vision will be. Think about it this way in terms of life goals. You know those randoms that sort of say to you, well, where are you going to be in 10 years? 10 years. I'm going to be dead. Where are you going to be in 10 years, right? And they think like that's a good sort of planning or coaching methodology to enact. Let me tell you the inverse. Where was I 10 years ago? Me. Hi. Where was I 10 years ago? Well, I just returned to Australia from the United Kingdom. I had a series of wonderful jobs in the United Kingdom. I'd just come back to Australia. I was appointed a head of school of education in regional Australia. I loved the job. I was happily married to Professor Steve Redhead, and in that year, 2013, I produced 2 books, Digital Dieting and City Imaging, both which have gone on to sell very well and done fantastically. So I was incredibly happy, incredibly settled. Financially, we were going very well. Everything was great. Steve was happy. Great. This was brilliant. 10 years ago, fantastic. Then what happened in the subsequent 10 years? Could I have predicted any of this? Let's do it. That I would have to leave that job in regional Australia, where I was so happy, because a Vice-Chancellor just did bonkers things to Steve and tried to destroy Steve Redhead's career, and pretty well did. So I had to leave that job because we couldn't stay there, and Steve was suddenly out of work. Okay, Steve Redhead was suddenly out of work. Okay, so then I moved to a job in Adelaide, very happy there for a period of time, and then moved on to a job in Darwin. That's been the 10 years. The husband that I loved so desperately was my entire life. In this 10 years, got a terminal illness and died very, very quickly. And then in this 10 years, other sort of truly remarkable, bizarre things happened. I had and held, and am holding, 2 dean roles, which is remarkable from somebody from my background. I would never have predicted that. And of course then, after Steve's death, magnificently, I then met Jamie Quinton and we got married. So is anything that's happened in those 10 years, was any of that actually predictable? And I would say the answer is no, okay? You'd never predict that. And the reason for that is 10 years is too long to predict. You don't know. You can't do that. You won't know. But a year to 18 months is really doable. That's the sweet spot period for backward mapping. 18 months is brilliant. And obviously, the closer you get, the easier it is. So like 30 minutes, right? Backward mapping for me in 30 minutes, I'll have finished this Outrider and I'll be halfway through a really strong black coffee. Yeah, brilliant. So the closer that you get to that backward mapping and that milestone, the more accurate you can be. So that's why this mid-candidature report is absolutely crucial. And it is an expansive document. I get my students to, at this point, put all their work into one document. So they actually have a thesis document at this midpoint. And I get them to send that to the assessors. So they actually see the full state of the work at this point. So in your report, you need to acknowledge what has gone well, list your achievements, list your completions. This is brilliant. So have you done your literature review? You've done at least one systematic review? You've done a scoping review? Terrific, brilliant, well done. Are you keeping it up to date? Fantastic, thanks. Data collection. Is your data collection done? Is it nearly done? Tell us about your data collection. Tell us about the professional development cycles that you have completed. What PD have you done? Gone to any conferences or seminars, delivered any stuff, done podcasts? Tell us about that. And of course, publications. If you've got publications and they're complete, they're under review, excellent. Tell us about that. Brilliant. Acknowledge also, and this is the crucial bit, what is yet to be started, what isn't done, and then put timelines on those tasks. And most importantly, I need you to have a heading. Don't call it the mess in the middle, although you could. I need you to acknowledge the mess in the middle. Acknowledge the worries, acknowledge the fears, acknowledge, speak, write the experiments that have gone wrong. Put the problem into the work and receive strong feedback to help you. So at this point, what could have gone wrong has gone wrong. That's cool. Don't hide it. Don't mask the issues. In fact, highlight them. Make them a big deal. Because your completion is sourced from this messy middle. Your completion is sourced from this messy middle. List all the data sets that went wrong. Explain the iterations of your methods and your methodologies and how you've enacted corrections. Discuss the dissemination of your research. If you've done podcasts, you've done video abstracts, all of that's great. List that work and remember to include any community or stakeholder engagements that you've had. So if there's an impact component to what you're doing, hello, go for it there. Also, you need to confirm that ethics is in place. That's incredibly important. And if you have required what's called an ethics modification, have you done that or are you going to do it? So explore the ethics modification. Most importantly, here it is, list the number of words that you have written and the number of words left to complete. That's the granular backward mapping. So talk about your drafting and your editing, how much of the thesis is sort of in a rough first draft. That's great. Are there chapters perhaps moving into publications that are better drafted? Tell us about the drafting and the editing. Now, return to, and this is the crunchy bit, return to your confirmation of candidature document, which you need to present and put as an appendix in this milestone document. Right? So your first milestone is Appendix 1 in your second milestone. And look at, and this is the yucky bit, look at and say, what did you confirm that you would deliver at this point? Did you? Yes or no? Why or why not? And what are you going to do now? So, and we'll get to this in a second. Most people don't, by the way. They get to some stuff, they don't get to other stuff. So at this point, you need to reenact your backward mapping. You need to configure another Gantt chart and present the changes to your first Gantt chart with full transparency for your assessors. Did you complete the work that you stated you would achieve? Yes or no? So at this milestone, we are verifying your progress. And of course, you are accountable for your progress. Now, most people miss a few of their targets. That's what happens. It's life. That's cool. And they also tend to achieve or do something fantastic in areas they didn't even predict in their COC. And that's brilliant and that's normal. But if you haven't reached most of your targets or reached the standards that you required, then you're going to need to explain to your assessors what precisely has gone wrong and what you're going to do to make this right, okay? Are these missed deadlines a proxy for other issues? And we need to talk about what those other issues will be. If you're going to finish, we need to resolve those issues today, now, in the mid-candidature process. Knowing these challenges, speaking them, writing these challenges is incredibly important. The reason we're doing that is so that professional development can be slotted into your candidature at this point. The reason we're doing this, we have to make concrete decisions now so that you can finish in the minimum time. The feedback you receive at this point is absolutely crucial. Research does change. It changes a lot. Remember, the definition of research is we don't know what's going to happen. If we knew what was going to happen, it would be a cooking show. Here's one I prepared earlier. We can't do that in research. We don't know what's coming. It's unpredictable, and that's the joy and the interest and the fabulousness of research. Therefore, this mid-candidature review is honest, robustly honest, and it must be. Presents all the work you've done, so your data collection, theoretical and methodological work, professional development, dissemination. They can be your headings if you like. But make sure that there is a full presentation of your backward mapping that looks back to your COC. What did you say you would do? Have you done it? Thanks for playing. And then you reconcile what you stated in your COC with where you are in the present. And then you also list the other great work you've completed that you didn't even predict in your COC. Great. Brilliant. We're now reaching the final point of this mid-thesis candidature. Crunchy. Let's do this milestone. And of course, the final bit of this milestone section is the backward mapping from your completion. We know the current state of your thesis. What is left to complete? List every single task that you're going to have to do and put a timeline on those tasks. This may seem like, when you do it, an enormous to-do list. And you know what? It is. But the difference is you're attaching a timeline to each of those tasks. I need you to be accurate. That's what backward mapping is. And the amazing thing when you are accurate and you spend time in this last section getting this backward mapping right is suddenly you see that the thesis completion is achievable, it's predictable, and it will calm you down. You can see the end and you've configured a methodology to get there. Wow. So don't be overwhelmed. Don't be overwhelmed. Don't be frightened. This is a moment of courage where you celebrate what you've achieved and you acknowledge with full consciousness what is left to achieve. So yes, this is the Jan milestone. And in many ways, this is the most important part of your entire candidature because it concretizes the strategies for completion. So when you backward map what is left to achieve, then suddenly you can see everything. It becomes predictable. It becomes trackable. Changes everything. Without the backward map, you will lose your way in this mid-stage. This is the danger point of the candidature. When students leave, when students have all sorts of mental health concerns, when their family problems emerge, problems with friends emerge, all sorts of terrible stuff happens at this period. And this is where students give up. And that's because it all seems too big and they can't control it. This mid-candidature milestone gathers all the filaments together, plats them, and makes us see the end point. Powerful. So what we're going to do in this mid-thesis review is we're going to sit in your present. We're going to understand the next 18 months. We're going to see them. We're going to log the work and log the time that it takes to complete them. The trick, I think, of the mid-candidature milestone is that it saves you time. Most people, if you do this properly, will save you 6 months, might even save you a year. For a lot of people, it saves their candidature. They're about to walk away. They then acknowledge how much they've already done and how they can finish, and they stay in the program and they complete. The students that finish their PhD can plan. And when they've planned well, it continues their motivation because they know this damn thing is just not going to continue for decades. Also remember that professional development matters a lot at this point. If you've hit some problems, then this is the time to swing in the PD. So if you need a statistician, this is the time to bring in a statistician. If you've used EndNote but not too well, time to do that advanced training for EndNote to get you home. You may also, you're looking at your work and you're going, oh, you might need a little bit of research integrity or academic integrity support to ensure your paraphrasing doesn't spill into plagiarism. And speaking of plagiarism, you will also need to submit a piece of work to authenticate. Our wonderful text matching protocol that we use at Charles Darwin University. You use Turnitin, most universities have something for you to use. And this report from Authenticate must be reviewed by you, your supervisors and your assessors. And what we're checking at this crucial point is your note-taking, your paraphrasing and your plagiarism. What's going on? This is a crucial diagnostic. Let's solve problems now. And look, there is also a meta-assessment. There's no doubt your assessors will also be evaluating your writing and your referencing. And if there are issues emerging in your writing, which sometimes appears at this point, then we swing in PD. So for example, at CDU, we have a wonderful librarian who meets one-on-one, unbelievably, with our students once a week and improves their writing. So that support can be brought in at this point to enable your writing to improve. No problem. And as you can see, acknowledging a problem is not an issue at all. It's terrific. Once we acknowledge it, we can fix it. So this mid-candidature point is a mirror, an accurate mirror for how we are going. Our job as deans, as supervisors, as assessors, as librarians, is to help you and to support you at this midpoint. Yes, we are your cheer squad. Come on! You got this. Come on, let's do this. We are your cheer squad. But we're also your critical friends because we have to be. We have to log a problem before your examiner does. That's why this moment matters so much. This difficult middle milestone will help you finish in 3 years. It's a crucial time. All the big problems that could have emerged have emerged now. But the point of backward mapping is you need to be able to demonstrate from this point how you're going to get this to completion. All milestones are evidence-driven. That's the one point I'd make. There's too much of this in life, let alone in universities. Gonna, coulda, shoulda. Milestones aren't this. They are evidence-driven protocols. Show us what you have done in all its wonky, confusing, fantastic brilliance. You're doing something remarkable. And at this point, this is where you have to show some courage. And trust me, as happens in life, you will be rewarded for that courage. For all my students about to go into a mid-candidature review, I send them a quote. And this quote comes from Theodore Roosevelt. This quote, by the way, I've got all around this house. I've got in my office. I've got everywhere. I've got like 5 versions of it in storage. This quote I carry with me in my life. And I tell you what, as I've moved into my 50s, this quote has become even more meaningful for me. So for those of you that need a little bit of courage to go into this milestone, remember these words from Theodore Roosevelt, quote, "It's not the critic who counts, nor the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or the doer of deeds that could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who, at their best, in the end, knows the triumph of high achievement, and who, at worst, at least fails while daring greatly. End of quote. This precisely is the mid-candidature review. It acknowledges the triumph of high achievement, but it also acknowledges the failures. This is the moment where you will dare greatly. You are covered in metaphoric, I hope, dust and sweat and blood, and you are supported through this milestone to continue to do those deeds so that you will be triumphant and you will complete this thesis. I wish you love, light, and peace. Tea out.